What is the difference between critical thinking and overthinking? This is a question, this is an interesting question that was posed by one of my students, Miss Uruj Khan, who is a critical thinker. Now, the following brief presentation is in response to this particular and interesting question. So, first of all, what is thinking? Generally, thinking is information processing by our brain. This process involves the process of reasoning or inferencing or making judgments. Now, what is critical thinking? Critical thinking generally is the systematic, objective, analytical, and disciplined thinking. The aim of critical thinking is to understand phenomena and to find solutions to our problems, to understand situations, to understand difficult questions. Now, what is overthinking? Generally, overthinking is unmethodical, uncontrolled, repetitive thinking that is often focused on problems, impossibilities, rather than solutions or possibilities. So we can say that overthinking is also a form of general thinking, or you can also say critical thinking. But is in comparison to critical thinking, they generally aim at finding solutions to our problems or getting out of difficult situations or looking at new ways of things. Overthinking, on the other hand, is focused on the negatives of the situations, and it is generally a cyclic and repetitive process, and the focus of the overthinking is generally on the impossibilities or the negative sides of situation. Now, here are some characteristics that differentiate between critical thinking and overthinking. The first one is that critical thinking is logical. That actually means that critical thinking brings in reasoning into the process of our understanding and making judgments. On the other hand, overthinking is generally psychological in nature. And so here our psychology or our feelings are dominant on the process of our thinking in comparison to the critical thinking, which is more logical and where our reasoning is more in control in comparison to our feelings. Secondly, critical thinking is solution focused. The focus of critical thinking is to find solutions to our problems. So when we are thinking critically, we have an understanding and a recognition of the problematic situations, but our focus is on getting out of those problems in order to find solutions. On the other hand, while we are overthinking, generally it happens that this is the case because of our fixation on the difficulties or the impossibilities of the problems rather than on the solutions. Thirdly, the action acceptance. So generally, critical thinkers, although they think systematically, they think deeply, and they take their time in thinking to find solutions to their problems. But then they are action focused, and ultimately they take action not very long, and they do not take very long times in terms of taking action. On the other hand, overthinking is something that leads to action avoidance because of the perpetual quagmire of, you can say, worries, or you can say focusing on the negative sides or the problem side of it. Overthinkers generally find it difficult to take actions. So taking timely action is something that differentiates critical thinkers from overthinkers. Then the next one is positive stress. So stress is involved in both, in critical thinking, in the process of critical thinking, as well as in the process of overthinking. But the stress in critical thinking is more positive in comparison to overthinking, where the stress is focused on the negative aspects of the problems. And so as a result, the positive stress helps you in finding solutions, in remaining positive, in taking timely action. On the other hand, negative stress stops you from taking action. And lastly, control. So generally, critical thinkers are controlled of their thinking and their actions. On the other hand, the overthinkers generally are in the control of their thinking rather than their thinking in control of them. And as a result, they lose control, and as a result, they become inactive. And the process of the process of thinking, taking the negative course, generally is not in the control of the overthinkers. And so these are some of the main differences between critical thinking and overthinking. So generally we can say that critical thinking is a form of thinking that is systematic, objective, analytical. It is disciplined, and it generally leads to finding solutions. It helps in taking informed actions, and it brings in positive stress. It is controlled, while on the other hand, overthinking is generally more psychological in nature. It focuses on the problems. It generally inhibits our action capabilities, and so overall it is generally negative and not in our control.